Hello and welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm your host, Linda Smith. New Vistas Schools has been in the Lynchburg area serving students who learn differently for a quarter of a century. My guests tonight are Charlotte Morgan, head of New Vistas School, and Lara Jesser, who's Director of Development for New Vistas. Lara, Charlotte, so glad to have you both on the show.
Thank you for having us.
As we get started, can you tell us what New Vistas is and where it's located? Either one of you can answer these questions.
8 years ago, when I interviewed to be head of New Vistas School, the committee told me that New Vistas was the best kept secret in the Lynchburg area. Well, what school wants to be the best kept secret? So thank you so much for inviting us to be on the show to talk about New Vistas. It's really important to the community, I think.
You know, to be honest with you, I really didn't know that much about it. I've heard the name, but I didn't know what it was. And
well, we've been around 27 years, so it's time to get the word out, don't you think?
I do think.
So thanks a lot. New Vistas is a school for children from 3rd grade through 12th grade who have learning difficulties. Such things as specific learning disability, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, children high functioning with autism or Asperger's syndrome, anxiety disorder. We serve all of those children. Our mission, of course, is to take those children from a situation where they have not enjoyed school, in fact, have become turned off to school, to loving to learn and being curious again. So that's a little bit about who we are. Where we are is over in the same area that Lynchburg College is, 520 Eldon Street, but we face Oakley Avenue.
You know, I was going to ask you this question later, but since you mentioned it, in doing research for this show, I noticed that several students had come forward and said, you know, I had a hard time in public school, but I have excelled since I've been at New Vistas, and I think that is certainly to your credit to have a student say that, because you don't often have that.
Yeah, Lara was just talking with a young man today.
I was just talking with a young man today who's a former student, graduate, and he said that he had come in as a junior and said that he had never had a bad experience at New Vistas, that he, you know, so appreciated it that, you know, it really fueled his creativity, and he really appreciated the personalized educational experience that New Vistas offers.
Well, I think that's wonderful. I think when the kids are the ones who make these statements instead of faculty, you know, you expect that from the faculty, but you don't always expect that from the kids.
Right. Well, our mission is to educate one child at a time, and that is absolutely what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think some people would say, well, it's because you have small classes, and that's the key. But that's only one of the keys. What are you going to do in those small classes? What are you going to do with those children to turn them around to learning and creativity and curiosity again?
I'm excited to find out about that,
Good.
but want to get some of the basics. As head of this school, what does your job involve?
Like any head of any organization, it's really many jobs. The first job is to work with the board, and we have an amazing board from all the professions in the region, to work with the board to assure that the mission's carried out and that the school is financially solvent and sustainable, which of course it is. We own our building and our property, but in any case, that's one of the jobs, that whole fiduciary responsibility. Right. Hiring our faculty and our staff and training them and working with them, working with the State Department of Education, which is our licensing agency, working with the Virginia Association of Independent Schools, which is our accrediting agency. I teach a class myself every day, working with the children in problem solving, professional development, and working in the community. I'm on the Transition Council for Central Virginia, so it's a huge job.
You wear a lot of hats.
Of course.
All right, Lara, as Director of Development, tell me what you do.
Well, Director of Development just builds relationships for New Vistas and with the community. We raise awareness about New Vistas and how the school can benefit the students in the area that need us. I also help raise funds for New Vistas. That we have tuition that pays for about 80% of our operating costs.
Wonderful.
But we do need to raise funds, and that includes the annual appeal and planning some special events. And of course, there's grant writing, which is really like graduate school and the lottery combined.
And you wear a lot of different hats.
We also acknowledge our donors very thankfully, and make sure that they are up to date with newsletters and any other mailings that they need.
I think that's a wonderful job, and I've seen you here before, and we're glad to see you back again. Now, the school has, you said 27 years it's been active in the Lynchburg area. How did it start originally?
It was the vision of 5 professional women in the area. They recognized a need and worked hard to fill it. Lucy Guggenheimer Ross, who stayed with the school for 20 years, Dell Hancock, Libby Jarrett, Patricia Kirtley, and Dorsey Mayo. We call them the founding mothers.
That's all right. So it is a private school,
yes,
and considered a nonprofit or
Yes.
not-for-profit. And so it's funded through donations and tuition.
Yes, yes. The board raises approximately $4,000 a year for each student.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So even if a child pays full tuition, the board still, in order to enable that child to be served individually and appropriately, raises about $4,000 a year. That's where Lara comes in.
Oh. Well, you must be doing a good job.
She does a great job. I think that the term private school isn't exactly correct. We call ourselves an independent school. That term private school has sort of that old Southern flavor of exclusivity to it. And really, children from all socioeconomic backgrounds come to New Vistas. The board is very committed to financial aid. They're very committed to the fact that families who need to have their children there are able to have their children there.
You keep saying things, and I keep jumping ahead of myself. But how does a student qualify to be a student in your school?
Well, I like to say that families who come to us are desperate. And that's really the truth. Very often the mom and the dad are both crying when they come to my office. And I'm not joking about that. That's really true. They have a bright child. Compared to the other children in the family, this child isn't thriving in school. They take them to have them tested. The school works with them. For whatever reason, this child develops this sense of failure. They begin to say, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, what's wrong with me? And the families just don't know where to turn. In the field of special education, there's what's called a continuum of services. Right. You may have never heard of that, but even at the federal level, every community has their public schools, and that's the least restrictive environment, and that's where we want every child to be educated. Right. And that's every parent's hope and dream. And so they want them to go to the regular school. But in the case of our children, often that school, no matter how hard they've tried, they just haven't been able to serve them. Sometimes it's just a matter of size. The classrooms are too big. They can't function in a school that large. Other times it's sensory reasons, the bells, the noises, the smells. There are just so many reasons. There are a whole raft of reasons. So they come to us, and we're more like a family school.
Right.
We're very small. We could never be more than 45 children. So they come to us and they tell us about the child. We have an admissions process. We look at their psychological testing. We look at their educational testing. We ask if we are able to serve them. That's an important question. We can't serve all children. We're not predominantly for children with behavioral problems or severe emotional problems. Our children really do have learning problems.
Well, I just think it's wonderful what you do. So you said 45 children is all you have at the school?
Well, we have 39 now. Our
39.
maximum capability would be 45 children.
But that has to be a tremendous help as far as individual attention goes, and obviously these children need individual attention. All right, you mentioned accreditation. What kind of do you have to have?
We are accredited by the Virginia Association of Independent Schools, which is a member of the National Association of Independent Schools. The only other two schools in the region that are Virginia Episcopal and James River Day. And so our academic standards are really quite high. Some people find that a conundrum. How can you take children with learning problems, reading, writing deficits, math deficits, and teach them in a curriculum that's very enriched and very challenging? But that's part of what we do every day, that we think these children are bright. We think they deserve an education. So what are those other ways in? How are we able to serve them?
For parents, it sounds like really they're kind of at the end of their rope.
We say wits end of their rope, desperate. People wouldn't typically say, I really want my child to go to a special education school.
Right.
That's not your first thought. And that's okay with us. We understand that. But they are so thrilled when they finally discover that New Vistas is here in our community as the continuum school for private day. We had one family that moved from Northern Virginia and displaced their entire family to send their two children to New Vistas School. And we said, what do other communities do when they don't have a school like this?
You know, you just wonder. I don't know. I feel for those children, but if they have a place like this that they can come and realize themselves that they're capable of functioning on a higher level in this area, you know, then that's pretty cool, I think.
It's very cool.
I think when Lara sees this young man walk in, and he's one of many, walk in and say, okay, now I'm ready to do my 4-year college applications. I've finished my 2 years. I'm finishing up my 2 years. Very successful, and I'm ready to take the next step.
That's great.
And I give all credit to New Vistas School for that.
So you work directly with the kids in helping them.
Well, if the students come in or our former students come in and want to share their experiences, it always gives me good language to use when I'm promoting the school. Telling other people who might be interested, who might have a child that they know of, or a child of their own that needs, this kind of education.
Right.
It's also getting to know our alumni, keeping contact with our alumni is very important for the school. Not only is a requirement as an independent school to have a procedure to keep in touch with your alumni and see how they're doing, it's also a great way of just keeping the fabric of the community together.
I was going to say, it certainly is beneficial to the community when you educate these kids and they go out into the community and end up being productive.
Well,
members.
Research has told us that children with learning disabilities do not graduate at the same rate as children without disabilities. That in our prisons and in our juvenile facilities, there's a far higher percentage, almost double the percentage of children with learning problems. And even if they do graduate and go out into the community, often these children with learning problems are in jobs that do not pay them at the wage that their intelligence would predict. So we're all about solving that problem.
It has to be frustrating.
We're all about being a part of the solution and saying these children can be educated, they can serve the community, they can be productive citizens, but it's no easy fix and it's no quick fix.
Right.
It takes time.
So you have grades what to what?
Right now we have grades 3 through 12. Our license to operate by the state enables us to have first grade through 12th grade. But our focus has been more after the children have gone to school, given it a try. And third grade is about where we begin to be affected.
Approximately how many students do you have per grade or per classroom?
Some of our children have classes where they're one-to-one, not for the whole day, but for part of the day. Most of our classes are 5 or 6 children. The class I teach daily, Foundations of Communication, is 5 students, and they are 8th and 9th graders.
You know, it's like you said earlier, people would say it's because they have more one-on-one attention, but obviously it's not. It's the approach to the child. And
absolutely.
One of the things I read when I was doing research was talking about in most schools where you have these children, it's pointed out daily, they're not handicaps, but they're differences. But at New Vistas, you all also point out the good things they do and their capabilities, and you know, I think that is probably key to so many work-related places.
It's oftentimes children with special needs end up having their special needs be the focus of the day.
Right.
And we really want the whole child to be the focus of the day. We want them to have their art and enrichment. We want them to have their drama. We want them to be able to participate fully in physical education and in our Healthy for Life program. And so we really strive for it to be the whole child. You're not going to come to New Vistas and see children sitting in rows doing worksheets, working out of the textbook. You're going to see them very involved and collaborating. All those things we know we need to function as a citizen of the world.
Right.
So we're not just focusing on the fact that they can't read or they can't write. We really are very committed to the whole education, the full education.
And obviously your focus is not just getting these kids into school and graduated.
Oh, no.
And I think we see that so much happening in general school situations, is that it's, you know, the kid, let's get them graduated, whereas you give these children so much more special attention, and I think that's vital.
We're not just a conveyor belt of education. Yeah, it's really it's like a home family environment.
One of the things the families say when we have these initial interviews is, my child's falling through the cracks, my child is becoming invisible, or my child was just the sweetest, nicest child, but now she's acting out. Oh. And all of these things that are ways of avoiding the bigger problem of we're not learning. And my child is miserable at school for any number of reasons. So we really do try to identify very particularly what's the learning problem, what's the processing problem, what's going on in the brain, because it all comes from very strong brain research.
And what goes on with one child is not necessarily what's going on with another.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. And if you have a child with a diagnosis, for example, of ADHD, that child may not look at all like the next child who walks through the door with the diagnosis of ADHD. So you really have to have the time and the patience and the flexibility to focus on one child at a time.
You all have brought some really great pictures, and if you'll put the pictures up on the screen, we'll get them to tell us what they are.
Okay, I think the children are at the Roanoke Science Museum this year. That was one of the lower school science field trips. They went for a whole day to the Roanoke Science Museum. They had interactive classes. One of the real commitments that we make is to get our children beyond the walls. We don't just learn in boxes.
Right.
And for them to be a part of what's going on in the real world just enriches everything we do in the classroom.
Do you all have a dress code?
We do have a dress code. We call it a Dress for Success code. I'm very sad to see that young man with his hat on. Although I know it's the fashion. We call it a Dress for Success code. You'll find most of the things that we do grounded in what's going to enable the child to function outside of school, not just in school. So we teach them respect for self, respect for others, respect for the environment. if it's an environment where they can dress in a relaxed fashion, that's appropriate. That last picture, we were at Red Hill for the day. And this is on the James River. James River Float Company took us out twice last year so our students could do science studies on the river.
You know, I think it's great that you're giving them a well-rounded experience. It's not just classroom. You're taking them out and showing them the community and what's out there, and I think that's great.
They're very involved in the community. Lara can tell you in a little while about our servathon. This is our finger-licking feast.
I was going to ask you about a finger-licking feast. Is that a pig?
That is a pig, and the Finger Licking Feast is our biggest fundraiser. It takes place at Mountain Run Farm in Sedalia. It's board-driven, and there's live music. I believe the Skylar McCurley Band is playing this year and played last year. There are live auctions for really cool, interesting things like vacation destinations and sports packages and tickets for different things. And there's a silent art auction where a lot of local artists are donating their
That's
work.
Great.
Yeah, it's.
And when was this?
It's every year, and the one for 2014 is coming up May 14th. So if you want tickets, please give us a call.
We will do it.
It's a big deal.
Those are the founding mothers. Those are the 5 founding mothers that I told you about. At one of our commencements, we were honoring them, and we honor them in the program every year. It's amazing what they envisioned and made happen. That is the after-school, lower school biking, hiking club.
Exercise.
We're all about healthy for life. That's huge for us.
You know, I like the fact that you do all of the things that most other schools do as far as having proms and activities for kids, ring dances.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of our parents coming in, doing some volunteering during a crafts project with our lower school children.
This is a couple of our students working on a project with iPods. We do have what I've noticed is a great deal of interaction with the latest technology with our students.
Some very generous grants have given us iPads, iPods, smart boards.
You know, I think this community is so willing to help, to reach out to children like this, to help for projects like this.
They've been wonderful and generous. This is a science project.
A STEAM project, I believe.
Exactly. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Students working in teams to solve problems. That's a national initiative. More of the STEAM project.
That's great.
You see the kids doing. They're doing it. We make it possible, and they do it.
And interacting with each other. I mean, that's social skills right there.
It's huge.
Under the umbrella of having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You see how invested and involved they are. They're trying to create a roller coaster.
That's cool.
This is our fall festival, and we're having a picnic outside. We had a bunch of games. There were Halloween costumes, so it was a pretty big time. And we have a lot of spirit days and whole school activities where the older students from the upper school and the younger students from the lower school are all working together and interacting.
We have a buddy system. Each upper school student has a lower school student that they mentor.
We're actually running out of time. Oh, didn't want to miss any of the pictures. We've only got about 4 more minutes to go, but I wanted to. See, I told you it went by very fast. But you also work with Randolph College and Lynchburg College.
We do. We really appreciate any volunteers that come from the local colleges. Student teachers are certainly doing field work at New Vistas, And we have an internship opportunity in our development office, and we work very closely with the colleges.
I think that's wonderful. I have so many other things I wanted to ask you, but 28 minutes goes by really fast. So can you tell me briefly what's coming up for New Vistas?
We're very excited about working to create outdoor classroom.
An outdoor
That is
classroom.
a huge thrust for us. We really believe children need to be outdoors, and all the research studies show it's so much better for the brain for them to be outdoors. So we're seeking grants for that. That's a really important one.
To include a sustainable garden and greenhouse and incorporate that into our Healthy for Life program.
That's wonderful. I mean, since we've been sort of stuck inside because of weather lately, we know how that is.
It makes a difference, doesn't it?
All right, you all have a Facebook page and a website.
Yes,
we
we
do.
do. We're at www.newvistas.org, and we are on Facebook, so you can like us on Facebook. Also, if you would like to come visit, 520 Eldon Street is right off Memorial Avenue.
And you'll see a lot more of the children engaged in learning. It's about the children. Lara and I can come and talk about it, but really it's about the children.
I think that's wonderful. I really admire you for what you do. I wish I had time for the rest of these questions. Thank you so much, both of you, for
Thank you,
being
Linda.
here, and continued success with this school. I'm personally so glad to find out about it because I didn't know what it was.
Thank you.
So now I hope that we've been able to let our audience know more about it.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. My next show will deal with getting fit after the holidays, which is probably something most of us need to do. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.